I think the problem comes when we compare ourselves to other people. If it were just us, for instance, if we just grew up on an island by ourselves and we maybe were missing an arm, we would never think that we were flawed. We'd never think that anything was wrong with us until somebody came on the island with two arms.
The way this works is I'm going to do a quick intro, and normally I have practiced it throughout the week, but I haven't practiced it this week, so we'll see how that goes, and then we'll jump right into it. For those of you who are here early, um, Rhea is an artist. I know you paint, right? I know you paint. You
Yes,
draw.
I do. I paint, I
Yeah.
draw.
What else
I
do you do, real quick, before we get the official? You know what I'm saying? What do you paint? You draw? What else you do? You
anything has
sculpt?
to do with art. I face paint. I paint murals. I paint portraits, illustration.
All right, that's
Also,
enough. You can tell me that. You can tell me that on the real joint.
okay.
You can regulate that. All right, cool. So let me do the intro cut for the YouTube, and then we'll jump into it. So, body positivity, self love, domestic violence, motherhood, and art.
Yes.
Okay, so if there's something that I don't specifically ask you that you want to bring up, just feel free to bring it up.
Okay.
All right, cool. Let's do it. Yeah, she is dope, and she can shoot the three real well too. I don't know if she still can, but
Oh my
she
gosh,
used to.
my father talks about that all the time. So I wasn't that good, but I did make a few shots.
Yeah, you did. I remember. All right, let's do it. Welcome back to What's Up With You, everybody. Tonight we got my almost lifelong friend Rhea, who is an ultimate artist, a mother, a very kind-hearted person, and tonight we are going to discuss self-love, body positivity, motherhood, her artistry, and anything else she wants to talk about. But before we jump into that, my show is brought to you by the I Am Chels X store. So if you want to support, go to www.iamchelsxstore.com. Use the promo code all caps inspired for 10% off my inspirational merch and apparel and mugs and all of that good stuff. Rhea, good to see you. What's up with you?
Hey, everything. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Say again?
Nervous and excited to be here.
Or just ease on into it. If you want me to, if there's a point where you want me to turn the comments off, just say, hey, can you turn the comments off? I'll turn the comments off. And but nothing to be afraid of. We got a good community of normal-minded, open-minded people here.
Okay.
All right. So cool. Body positivity and self-love. Simple question to start off with. Are the two connected?
Um, I think so, but I think you can have one without the other. I think you can have self-love and still be insecure in certain areas. Hopefully that is something that people can overcome, in their lifetime. But yeah, I do believe that they are kind of separate. You can have one without the other.
Okay, so how do you define each one? And you could pick whichever one you're more comfortable with or whichever one you have more problems with first. But how do you define body positivity and how do you define self-love? Your definition, no wrong answers.
I would say self-love is accepting yourself as you are. Um, I feel like we say things like we're flawed and things like that, and I understand what we're saying. We're saying that I'm not above anybody else, but I feel like we are created intentionally, um, and on purpose, and there's no flaw in that. And I think accepting that if you are not I think the problem comes when we compare ourselves to other people. If it were just us, for instance, if we just grew up on an island by ourselves and we maybe were missing an arm, we would never think that we were flawed. We'd never think that anything was wrong with us until somebody came on the island with two arms. So I feel like it's not until we start comparing ourselves to other people that we start to doubt ourselves and start to lose that self-love and start to question, am I good enough? So for me, self-love is saying I'm created on purpose. Um, I accept the way that I am, and we always try to get better, but I accept the way that I am. I love the way that I am, and I feel confident about that. And then body positivity is accepting your body the way it is physically and being okay with that. And that's really tough, especially my husband is a photographer, a boudoir photographer, and it's shocking how many models feel like they're not perfect in a certain area. And that's who everybody's looking at, the models, as perfection. But everybody has insecurities about their body, and some more than others. So I think it's just saying it's good enough. It's fine, the way it is.
Mm, I like that. So one of the questions I have is like, okay, so the way I kind of surmise what you're saying is like we're imperfectly perfected,
Yes.
right? Okay. So how do we then, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how do we accept ourselves for where we are, acknowledge that we can improve without being self-defeating towards ourselves?
How can we do that? Practice.
I mean, I'm just a thought, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not even one of the questions I had on my paper. It's just, I was just thinking as you said it, like, hey, how do we do that?
Um, I just hope that everyone can come to that place where you're like, okay, I'm created on purpose. I love the way that I am, um, but I love to improve as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, I'm very happy with the way that I look, um, but it doesn't mean that I don't exercise. It doesn't mean that I don't try to eat healthy. Um, because you still have to take care of yourself, But it doesn't mean that I'm insecure. That just means that I'm trying to make good decisions. Maybe I like the way I look. Maybe I want to add a couple muscles. That's not, it's not something bad. It's just growing and getting better. But I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me now.
Cool, I'm with you. So it seems to me like you said, the models are self-conscious, right? Okay, so that pretty much tells me like why are we all so self-conscious, right? Like so the model like the what's the word for them? Like the archetypes or whatever are they're self-conscious. The skinny people are self-conscious. The chubby people are self-conscious. The tall people are. How did we get here, and why is everybody so self-conscious?
You're right. I don't know. I think, well, I have no idea. I can tell you, my story, but, I don't know why everybody gets to that place or why some people can't break out of that place. I was very self conscious from the very beginning. As a kid, always comparing myself to other people, wondering why I was different. But I never ventured outside of myself. I never asked, I never got, um, I don't know, I never got close to the people that I was comparing myself to in order to understand that, hey, there's nothing wrong with me. I looked from a distance. I was a very quiet to myself person, and I just looked at everybody else and kind of admired, oh, well, they're very confident. They're talking, telling their feelings, their thoughts. They dress the way they want to. They, you know, do the things that they want to. And I'm sitting here inside of my head thinking, no, I don't. I don't want anyone to see me. I don't want to expose myself. I might not be good enough. So yeah, this is a big battle of mine, which is why I'm talking about that. But that's just the way I was as a kid, just feeling so different from everybody else. And so it took a long time to come to a place where I could say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me. I am different, but that's okay. It took a long time, and it took some very hard experiences.
Mm, wow, hard experiences. Tell me about it. Like, tell me about an experience that you went through. Give me one. It doesn't have to be, tragic, but give me one or something simple that made you, that was difficult for you, and how did you overcome it?
I'd say the best and worst thing that has created my confidence is divorce. Unfortunately, um, that was the hardest thing. Not only divorce, but divorce from a toxic relationship, and having to rethink who I am instead of someone telling me who I am, and have confidence in myself in spite of being told that I'm less than. So having to conquer that and have my own sense of strength and security. Um, yeah, that's what kind of took me to that place after being told for so long, um, you're not good enough. And I think I put myself in that situation because I had already felt that way. And so it wasn't a big deal for anyone to tell me that. Um, and then when, going through divorce and I'm out there alone and it's just me that can tell myself I'm good enough or not. And you kind of have to. I had to just survive, figure out how to survive. I didn't have time to be insecure, especially because I was an artist. I mean, I've been an artist the entire time, and as an artist, that's how I supported my kids. Um, so I had to be. You have to be confident in your artwork in order to sell it, and if you want to eat, you tell your be confident this is good enough. This is worth a few $100 or a few $1,000. You have to have that confidence. So when I was put into such a tough spot, I had to make stuff happen. I didn't have time to doubt myself.
Mm. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, and I think you've kind of touched on it, but I'm still gray on it. Do you think that self-love is inherent in humans, or do you think it's something that we have to learn in time throughout life?
I think it depends on the person. I remember talking with a guy one time. I think he bought a piece of art for me, but he was telling me that he's just always been confident in himself. He's never, questioned, am I good enough or whatever. He's just like, this is just me. This is how I've always been. And I was like, really? Like, you don't have a story of, this is how I came into my strength and accepting myself. And no, I never doubted myself.
Hmm. So I don't have I have solid views on certain things, right? This is one of those things where I'm kind of gray. And if I had to guess, I would say that we all have some inherent self-love because they say that the first rule of nature is self-preservation. So like under extreme duress, you're probably gonna do what needs to be done in order to save yourself, right? So if I would save someone else out of love, I would naturally be saving myself out of love. But I also think that, like you said, I think once we have something other than us as a backdrop and we can see that I'm different than this person and I admire this about that person and I think they're better than me about it, is when you realize that your view of yourself isn't as high as you once thought it was. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so that's kind of how I look at it. Um, I know I love me. You know what I'm saying? People used to be like, you're a shy kid, you're skinny and all of this. And I was like, well, whatever. I like me. If you don't like me, I like me.
You know what? You always seem to be super confident. Like you knew where you're going. You don't need anyone to distract you.
I
I
was,
admire that. I actually was, it was intriguing to me. It was like, he knows exactly what he wants. And, I just admired that.
so I think at around 4, I consciously realized that, like, wow, like, hold on. There's this voice in my head that I can hear, that I can use, and it can use me too, that no one else can really control. And I realized that I knew at a very young age, I'm going to go through this life and I'm only going to experience it through this being. So that tells me that I have more power over this being than any of the other people out here, right? So I'm going to trust my logic. Even if someone else says it's flawed, I'll consider it. But at the end of the day, I still have to trust what's going on in here. And so knowing that as a kid, I knew, like, okay, I could do something wrong and I could get the whooping for it, but it was still my choice. They can't necessarily stop me. They would have to physically restrain me to stop me from doing what it is that I want to do. So I just kind of figured that out early and was like, it doesn't matter what these people think. They don't know. They don't know that. They don't know a whole lot.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, I'm behind the curve then. But back to, is it, inherent in a person that they have some sort of self-love? I think in my experience with, um, being around a lot of ladies that have experienced domestic violence, I would question if everyone has that self-preservation inside, because some people don't, and they don't survive it. They don't think, I need to protect me. They just think, I need to take care of him. I need to take care of him until, something tragic happens. So I think in some cases, we just don't get there.
That's deep. Like, I can't imagine being in my normal state of mind, having someone do something physically harming to me, and I just take it. But like my logical software doesn't process that. So that's amazing, dude. So
That's
that go
that
ahead. Yeah, go.
now, now that I feel like I'm in a healthy place. I mean, I was single for a while and I felt like I was in a pretty good place, but I'm remarried now and having a healthy relationship. I think that way. I'm like, I can't believe, what I used to think was okay. I can't believe, it's like I'm living a different life. It's like I had two lives. And, and I'm like, if someone did that to me today, you know, yeah. And I know my husband will tell you that I'm a handful. So, yes, if I even feel like something is, close to that, I can't take it. So I can see now what you're saying, but it did take a long process to get there because, I didn't have that self-confidence. I felt like everything was my fault. If I did this right, then this wouldn't happen. Or if I were someone different, if I were like those other women that were confident, then that wouldn't happen. And like I said, being different, um, I had a hard time with that. And so that also caused me to think there's something wrong with me. But I've discovered recently that I have dealt with ADD. And, when you have ADD, you develop socially behind everybody else, actually. There's a whole lot of, things that cause you to be different. But, I mean, that's not the only reason I'm different. I know that I am, um, more of a tomboy. And so that caused me to feel like I didn't measure up. I don't have the cute nails and the, go to the salon, and I don't do all those things. So, I'm not, I may not measure up to the other women that surround me. So yeah, all of those things taken into account. And being an artist, I think you have a different very emotional kind of take on the world. All those things, you know, feel, feels like, well, maybe there's something wrong with me.
Mm. You know what's crazy is that typically the things that you think are quirky or wrong about you are actually like the gifts that once you embrace them allow you to be successful and free.
That's why I say you're made in perfection, and the things like even take ADD for example. Um, it could be hindrance, if you look at it that way. But if you know how to use it, like I've seen some people do some amazing work with it. Like they could stay up and do all these multitasks. So it's a blessing if you let it be. And I see someone on there that says define ADD. Attention deficit disorder. Um, Everything just moves very, very fast in your mind. Um, it's hard to focus on things. I don't remember a lot of things. I remember how I felt. So, and I know my husband could tell you that too. He has to tell me things over and over. One time we went to a restaurant and we walked in and I said, "Oh, this is a nice little restaurant. And look at these cups though. These cups are like yellow, but on purpose, but they looked dingy like you're drinking dirty water." And
Mm.
we came in here a few months ago and you said everything that you just said, you said a few months ago. So it makes it hard to pay attention. I have to do certain things. Like I have a key rack where I have to put my keys every time or I'll lose them because I'm not focused. I have to have a lot of order in order to feel safe because everything is out of order in my head and I forget things. So I try to remember, do things that help me to remember things. Like I said, you socially develop slower than other people, and not everyone has exactly the same symptoms. They say they show up in women a little bit differently than guys. Um, there's so many things. You have a fear of being bored, so you don't like to go to sleep. Um, I would die to be bored. um, yeah, it's just a lot, but everything inside just moves really fast. So it could be a blessing or a curse if you let it.
Wow. I know for me, I'm kind of the opposite. Um, I'll come home and I throw my keys like in the middle of the floor, right? And I do that because I know I put them in. I know that I threw them on the floor when I came in, right? So I actually feel a little more comfortable with a little bit of junkiness laying around. And it was one point when we moved into the house that we're in now, my wife is more of a neat freak,
Mm-hmm.
and and she had taken all the toys and put them in the right places, and I was just like, I don't feel comfortable in here. Like I need a couple of kids' toys like laying around here so that I could feel like I'm at home and there's not as much structure. So that's weird. People they process that way.
But OCD goes hand in hand with ADD too. So I can't take that. So I need everyone to, as soon as they use a dish, I need them to wash it. And if you leave crumbs on the counter, I need it to be wiped up. Like, I need things to be put back. If you take something out, you got to put it back. I, I could have a breakdown. Or if I have to look for something, I could literally become super hyper focused and have to look for that thing for hours until I find it. So I, yeah, I need everything really organized, and I know I probably drive my family crazy, but it makes me calm.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is that's how my mom was like that.
Oh, I see
And
someone else on here.
who?
Someone else. I have OCD. I'm just like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my homegirl Keisha. Wine and Wild Convos. Thursday nights at 9:30. Hey Girl Hey on Sunday nights, but I don't remember the time yet. So sorry, Keish. I tried. Um, have you ever been to therapy? Like, do you go to therapy? Have you been through a therapy process?
Yes, I have. When I started going through my divorce, I started asking the question, is there something wrong with me, or is my situation what's wrong? And I couldn't answer that myself. I'd been wanting to go to therapy to figure out, but it was super expensive. Um, but like I said, when I experienced the divorce, like it just pushed me like, you have to go figure out a way. And so I figured out that domestic violence shelter has free counseling and group counseling. I started in group counseling, and actually they had individual counselors there too. And so I met one of them, and I've had her ever since. It's been amazing. Yes, I love therapy.
I do too. I went and saw my therapist today. I hadn't seen him in like a month and a half because he had
I
stuff going on, right? And when the session was over, I was like, "Hey, look, bro, I felt felt like a fiend, right?" I was, "Hey, bro, like you got any cancellations in during the week? Because I kind of want to come back and holler at you about something else." He's like, "I got one at 1:30." I was like, "Shoot, man, it's my 2-year-old birthday today, so I'll see what's up, see if they getting ready." But they was already getting ready, so I couldn't go back to him. So I'm gonna try to catch up with him again. I'm like, I got some more stuff I want to work out here. So I like therapy. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to me. I enjoy it.
I love and sometimes my counselor is like, "Well, it sounds like you're doing really good. Do you want to like cut back?" And I'm like, "No." I really enjoy it, and something always happens. And I'm like, "Well, it's a good thing we did have our appointment because I need to talk about this." And
Yeah, it's
especially when when you have frustrations or anything like that, and you're not going to be the person to go run to your friends and tell all your business and talk about anybody else. You just want that one person who is going to give you sound advice and not like judge you or judge the people around you, your family or whatever, who's driving you crazy. Um, and yeah, and you have that safe space.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like I said, I love therapy too. One of the things that I definitely wanted to hear you talk about is like you don't have to be specific in terms of how it happened, but I wanted to hear you talk about the moment when you knew like being in a domestic violence situation where you were like, I'm done. Like was there a moment where something happened and you were just like, you know what? F this. I'm done.
um, well, it was 14 years. I had been married since I was 18. That's all I knew. um, and not only was I in that relationship, but I was also in a relationship with the church, and believing that you do this once and that's it. You stick it through. God changes things. I've had people um, in the church come to me and say, "God told me to tell you that God's working out your marriage and that you need to, stay focused on it." I did the church counseling, um, and they're like, "Oh, that went terrible." Uh, if you're dealing with any kind of narcissism, the whole counseling session was about me and how, I needed to fix this, this, and this. And so everything was like, you have to work it out, you have to work it out. And everything in my own mind, too, was like, I only want to do this one time. And, just like the fairy tales, it's supposed to work out in the end, right? Um, and I didn't want to, I was deathly afraid of starting over. I was like, I want my kids to be able to just visit the same parents, for the rest of their lives. I don't want any confusion. I want it to be simple. So I held on, and I held on, and I trusted that things were going to change. And then I think I just got physically exhausted. because stress does some things to you. Um, I know my current husband had gone through some stressful things, but just to let everybody know, if nobody knows, please be careful of stress because it can physically kill you. It can cause you, like, I wore glasses for a long time, and I don't wear glasses now. I thought I couldn't see, but it was just headaches all the time. Um, Sometimes there's points where I couldn't walk from stress. I feel like I was having a heart attack. Um, I was just physically getting worn down. And something that really helped, especially being in the church, I was listening to the radio and I heard, I don't know if anybody knows Dr. Dobson, but he had released a book called Love Must Be Tough. And it was, of course, he's a Christian, and he was telling people, if you are in this situation, then you should leave. And that's not something that the church tells you. The church tells you, work it out, work it out, work it out. But he said, no, if you're in the situation, if your husband says this, and he said a sentence, exactly, I was like, I hear that sentence all the time. And he said like 3 sentences, and I was like, that's exactly what I hear. I was like, oh my goodness. So I started researching and trying to understand. They were like, you can't change people. Like, not to say there's never been an abusive person that hasn't changed, but when you're dealing with narcissism, the likelihood is almost none. Don't sit around trying to change somebody. And so that was going in my head too. And I had done everything that I thought I could do to fix things. Once I went down the list of everything that I could possibly do and realized that I couldn't change it, I had to let go. Something that my husband would do is he would, if he didn't like the way I did something, he would say he wanted a divorce. And then I would cry and beg him to stay. And then we'd start over again, you know? And he did that for the last time. And he was like, you know what? I want a divorce. And I was like, okay, you know? And because I had felt like I did everything that I could, like, you can't make somebody leave until they're ready. But because I had gone through the process of doing everything that I felt like I could humanly do and nothing worked, I felt like I could let go. And all the emotions went too. It wasn't like I was holding on or anything. It was just like, I'm done. I'm gonna let it go and move on.
I salute you. Because I'm sure you were afraid, you know what I'm saying, to either, regardless, whether to stay or to go. I mean, that's got to be like a scary situation, like you say, to start over. Most people, especially if you do something, you said you were married for 14 years, like that's comfort, right? Regardless of how negative it can be, you get used to, like what they say, if you sit in shit long enough, you don't smell it anymore. You can get used to it. So to decide to be like, oh no, this stinks, you know, I'm out. That's bravery. My man, Reverend Kenton Wiley said, I'm always saddened with to hear the church has promoted toxic marriages by failing and facing reality.
Yes, it does. And I think that it would help to have some kind of education outside of the spiritual world on mental illness. You know, I mean, not every, when we first got married, the first church that we went to was like, I don't want to say anything negative, but they were
Why
like,
not? Hold on, so fast.
okay.
Let's take a deep breath. It's not necessarily negative. It's either your perspective of the truth or the truth. So if you want to say it, say it. I'm not going to bash you.
Okay, so the church that we started out going to was very controlling. Like, they told us that we couldn't have televisions, almost told us we couldn't have computers. We had to go to church every day. We couldn't socialize with our family and friends if they're not going to the church. Um, so we came in a place that was also toxic.
It sounds like a cult.
Yeah. So yeah, so toxic relationship, toxic church experience. That's what we were used to. We eventually tried a couple of different churches that weren't necessarily bad, but I think a lot of times we just refuse to accept reality because then we're not living in faith. But in reality, there are mental illnesses out there, and you can put yourself in danger. You can't change people. You have to let them change themselves. You have to have boundaries. And I feel like it would have helped a lot if, especially when we went to church counseling, if they had some kind of um, knowledge, maybe they could have directed me or something. Because I remember calling after our counseling sessions and saying, I think something's wrong. I think something's wrong. I can't put my finger on it, but there's always stress and negativity in the house, and I think something's wrong. But they couldn't tell me, anything. They're just like, well, just keep praying about it. If you need anything, just let us know. You know, I think definitely there should be more education on those things.
Mm. Cool. So let's jump into your art. Tell us about what you do, and I really want to know about the picture that's behind you.
Okay, what I do is basically I'm an artist. That's it. Anything having to do with art, that's how I process things. That's how I deal with happiness, pain. I create. I create paintings, murals, portraits, illustrations, face painting, poetry. I just create. That's my life. That's how I deal with life, basically. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that at first. As a kid, well, as a young kid, I said, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to be an artist, a doctor, a singer, a dancer. You know, I'm going to do everything. But then as I got a little bit older, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. That's what I'm going to be. I was super focused on it. I know, well, I don't know if you know that I went to Suitland and where they had the art program, and I was introduced to, you know, working on my art in high school. I could only go for a couple of years because we moved away, but I was introduced to art in a professional way, but I was still focused on being a doctor. So when I graduated, I had a full scholarship to study veterinary medicine at Tuskegee University. And then I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. And I said, I want to be a stay at home mom. so, so that's what I did for like a year. And then I was like, I need to have something to do on my own. And so I started trying to figure it out. And then I started to paint. I started to make pictures for people. The first one I ever did was a drawing for a tattoo, and I think the guy paid me like $10, and and I just been rolling ever since. Just running into people who are like, "Hey, I can teach you how to do this," and then I started teaching art and just everything art. So yes, I am an artist. I can't think of anything else. Like that's just the way that I process things.
So I have so I'm gonna put you in a really really tiny box, right? You can only do one piece of art, regardless of whatever that may be that you do, one last time. What is it?
Oh, one piece of art, one last time. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the things. The biggest, most amazing thing that I could do. I think it would be, oh, it may be like a self portrait, like a like a something that is monumental, that describes everything from beginning to end, because something that I feel is and the reason that I was kind of excited to do this interview is because the reason, like, our existence, sorry, I'm trying to put everything into my head.
Take your time. This is me every day of the week. I'm on live every. Hold on, let me think about this. So take your time.
If no one knows we're here, were we really here? Like, if you've lived your life and no one knows you, no one really knows you, no one knows your soul, your heart, no one knows you exist, you know, what is it? Did you really exist? I don't know. I mean, I guess you could exist to yourself, but I feel like the reason that even though I get nervous, I do love to do interviews is because I do want someone to know me while I'm on Earth.
Wow, that's that's beautiful and that's deep. And I'm with you, right? So one of the ways that I process what I do in terms of interviewing people, I think in metaphors, right? Or maybe they're similes. I don't know. I went to college for a semester, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But I look at it like this, right? And the example I give is like Julius Caesar. Um, Someone historically that we all know about. You can go in the history books and read about him. You may like him, you may dislike him. Julius Caesar probably had a really good friend that nobody knows about, but has a really dope story to tell of his or her own, and just another perspective on what was going on at that particular time. So when I decided to do the show, I'm like, I could try and chase down and pay well-known people, like, yo, I'll pay you this amount of money to interview you. But there's so many more people out here who are quote unquote nobodies. And I'm like, it'd be dope to hear their story. Like people have really dope stories to tell. Now, of course, if I had the money, I could be like, hey, LeBron, here's $10 million. Come sit down with me. Right. But anybody can go get his story. But not anyone can get your story. And that's what's cool. So I understand. I say that to say I'm with you on that. And I just want to give people the opportunity to have someone listen to their story, ask about their story, inquire about their story, and let them tell it from their perspective. That way, if the internet's forever and they trip across what's up with you, then Rhea lives forever.
That is awesome. There's a story that intrigues me. There was this lady who was a art historian. She knew every famous artist, um, and she was in a museum one day. She came across a piece of art, and she was like, "Who did this piece of art?" And she just kept looking at it. She's like, "It couldn't have been this artist. It couldn't have been that artist." And then she looked at the name, and she's like, "I don't recognize that name, but this is a masterpiece, as great as Leonardo, as great as Michelangelo." Um, and as she investigated, she discovered that this person was running with all of them, but they didn't like him, so they wrote him out of history. How much power do people have? You can just write. Well, we know. I mean, as a Black community, you we know that you can be written out of history. But just to sit and think about that, I don't like that. I'm just not going to put that in the history books. That's amazing. But also, I saw someone said, "Do you do art therapy?" I don't. Um, I'm trying to think if I ever have. No, I don't. I don't know. I don't feel like I have the credentials to do any art therapy, but I think definitely art is therapy for me. Um, like I said, when I don't know what to do with my emotions, I create. If I can't cry any more tears, um, if I mean, it's not just sadness, but happiness too. If I have too much happiness, I have to write it out. It has to be a poem. It has to be a picture, and it's saved me so many times because I don't know what to do with myself. And to be honest with you, as a child, I struggled with self harm. So I would cut my wrists or, not eat or scratch myself because I had so many emotions, and I think that was hard to deal with too. That was just something else that made me different, made me feel like a brat. But in reality, I just feel a lot of intense emotions. I think that comes with ADD too, just having a lot of so many emotions that you don't know how to handle it. And so art has definitely been a therapy for me because it's allowed me to get past that so that I don't harm myself, but that I can express it in a way that releases for me.
Sorry. So, um, my wife, let me pin this. Give me a second. So, my wife wants to know, can we put the spotlight on some of your beautiful artwork? And this is the part where I pull rank because this is my show, and it's I want a while. I'm going to show the people the two pieces of art that I purchased from you for my wife. Okay, you okay with that?
I'm okay. I'm
I
okay.
want to show it. Okay?
I'm confident about it now.
So, um, I'm real bad at. I'm not the greatest at gift giving. So sometimes I have to think of abstract things or have people promote abstract things to me to pop me open on gifts. And my wife is not the easiest person to buy gifts for. So I'm scrolling Instagram like I always do. And Rhea has posted that she has a special going on what she's doing. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. She's doing some type of ink drawings. And I know she can draw and do all of that. So I'm like, oh, these would be dope. So I sent her some two pictures. I sent her more than two pictures, but we came down to two pictures. And I'm going to show them to you. So this is the first one. It's still in the whatchamacallit. This is Libby and Finn kissing at my mother-in-law's house. So hopefully y'all can see that,
Yes.
right? That's dope, right? But there's that one. And this other one is this really handsome fellow and his wife,
Oh.
right? So, um, yeah, you gets busy. You gets busy on the art. I had one other art question for you. Um,
For you asked.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that was a blessing. That was a blessing that you did that because I was actually sick that week and I couldn't get out of bed. And so I was like, I have to make money because I had to take off a whole week of work and I had a art trip planned and all this stuff. And I was like, I need to make some money somehow. So I'm laying in the bed like Frida Kahlo and drawing. Like, this is all I can do is just move my hands. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, when it came in the mail, I wanted to open it, and I was like, God, I can't open it. But I think you had sent me the pictures, and I was like, oh man, these joints are gonna be so dope. So I'm supposed to, and I promise you, and I still will record a reel or record them with my wife holding them or something like that, so that you can use them for promotion. Um, I got you. The question I had for you is, so I've had two albums that actually are out there for consumption on streaming services, Apple Music, and all of that. And one thing that I find as an artist is that you can always look back at the art you did and find, I can always look back at the art that I created and find the imperfections, right? So, are you ever completely satisfied with a work of art?
Sometimes. So when I am completely satisfied, I sell it or give it away as fast as possible. You can take it and put it on your wall because I'm happy with it. But I kind of move a little bit slower when I'm like, I don't know, because I've sold pieces of art before, and then I go to visit that person's house, and I'm just staring at the wall like, oh, I should have done that better. Like, if I would have just moved that just a little bit, it's so frustrating. I just want to be done with it and be happy.
Yeah, that to me, it reminds me, it's how I imagine God in this whole universe thing. Like, he's like, it's really, really good, but it need a little more stars. You know what I'm saying? It's really, really good. We need a couple of more nebulas. Like, bro, we appreciate you. Like, you're doing a great job. It's cool. Don't be so hard on yourself. Take a day off.
Yes, it has to be perfect. I recently did a live painting. Actually, it was this one. This was a live painting on stage. I painted it while it was in the frame, but I didn't like finish the frame. I didn't put the hanger on it or the dust cover, um, you know, and I was painting it in low light. It was like a club. And so I didn't feel like I could really see it clear enough to say that I like it. While I'm painting, I go take a break to get something to eat, and someone is like, I want to buy it for, $2,500. And then I get back on stage after I'm done eating, and I'm trying to finish it because I'm not quite happy with it. And then they were like, I liked it the way it was already before you finished it. I don't want it now. So yeah, sometimes I can put my foot in my mouth.
It's dope to me.
I like it now, but there was less of it painted. It was more like almost a silhouette when they liked it, and I had no idea. So I missed out on the opportunity. Somebody said, "Can they come on?"
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, are you okay with her coming? Be good
All
people.
technology works, but yeah, if you could do it.
I'm gonna bring her on, and then we're gonna do the. I can't tell y'all, so let's get her in here. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I do this every day, and I'm still like, how do I do this? So we are bringing Love Jones in, Love_Jones in, because she has something that she wants to ask or say to Rhea. So I sent the request, and here she is. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hey y'all,
What's
what's
good?
up? Oh my gosh, I am listening to this, and Shell's already said that this was going to be an amazing show. But I need you to understand the energy that you are giving through this IG live. Like, I am feeling every single thing that you are saying. You are so amazing.
You.
I have chills. I've had chills since you started talking. It's like you remind me of myself, and it's like just you speaking about different things that you've gone through in your life, your art, how that method is, different circumstances in your life. It's like all of these things needed to happen, even though we don't like the negative things to happen. Like, look at this picture. Look at the detail. Look at the feeling. Your pictures give people energy. You have to understand that I feel everything from which when you were drawing, doing everything. You're amazing to me. Like, I want to know you more. Like, I just need you to understand that I have such chills through my body, and I'm smiling the whole time. I done fed the kids, I cooked and everything, but it's like I'm watching the phone, I'm listening to your voice. But I need you. I know that you understand that, but it's nice to hear other people say it. Like, I would definitely love to spotlight you. I'm doing something called Art in the City. I think you are amazing. I'm like so crazy tonight for this. Like, I don't even know what to say. I can't stop smiling. My cheeks are hurting. It's like, you are, the fat cheeks. I'm like, oh my gosh, she is. Thank you, Chels. Chels has brought so many great people in my life, and I feel like you are another. And you're amazing. And I just wanted to come on. I'm not trying to, mess up the interview or anything, but I had to do that. Have you ever felt like you needed to do something in the moment? I
Yeah.
had to do this in the moment. I had to. So big ups to you. And I thank God and whoever you believe in for everything that you went through, because it's a part of your story, and your story is totally amazing, and it comes out in your art with every stroke, every brush, every paint color, every all of that, all your thoughts, it comes out in that, and that's what makes it even more amazing. Because I know how art goes, and art is just like, some days you want to, some days you can't. But when it's just ingrained in you, it's like something, it's like your hands just move and you have no control. So, yes, thank you, beautiful, beautiful spirit, beautiful woman. Thank you so much. Like, this has been the highlight of my night. So I just wanted to come in. I wanted to tap in with you, and I wanted to tell you that. Thank you, Chell, so much. But yeah, I had to. I'm sorry. I couldn't go to sleep without tapping in with you, honey. Like, yes.
Thank you so much. That's very,
Welcome.
very.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And that's all I wanted to say, because I want to get back to the interview. Chels, I love you, bro. Like, I had to do it. It was like that. I was having energy and nervous energy. I was like, no, I need to talk to her now. I don't know what to say. And I was like, let me just put it in the comments, see what Chels does. And then bro did it. So love you. Keep continuing to do what you're doing. You're amazing, like so amazing. I would love to link up with you later on, because people need to see this. More people do. So I'm a peace out, but I love both of you, and continue to interview. I'm still here.
Thank you so.
Appreciate you, Keisha.
No problem ever.
All
Keep
right,
doing what
later.
you do.
All right, all right, all right. So,
That was awesome. I love
yeah,
your.
it was.
I thought I've met some nice people on your interviews as well.
Yeah, my interviews are always, like I said, it's weird because I've kind of like created this space where people with differing opinions and differing walks of life all feel comfortable coming in and expressing their opinions. And that's really what it's about, in my opinion. We're not always going to agree on certain things, but that doesn't mean we can't have open dialogue and civil debate and all of those good things. Um, how do you want the world to remember you?
Oh. I've actually been like going over this week, like, you know, um, in a good light. In a good light, I want. I guess no, not necessarily a good light. I'll be honest. In in as I am, as I am. Um, I'd like to be remembered as I am. If something I do is not good or something I do is good, I want people to just take me as I am. Um, yes, all of me. Um, I had an experience. Um, I had an experience where I lost my kids for 7 months, and they were with their dad, and he told them and many other people a lot of things about me that were not true. And that was the hardest thing for me, to be a monster when I wasn't. Like, if I was, like, if I beat my kids or if I did something, then I could understand, I could understand you protecting them, taking them away. But to be a monster for things that I didn't do, I just wanted to be seen for who I was. And as a mother, that's like the most important word for me, the most important name. I put everything into my kids. Like, when they moved out, I just like I was like, drop the mic. I did my job. I did everything that I wanted. I mean, I'm still there doing things, but I put my heart and soul into them, and I just wanted to be seen for what I did and not for something that was made up. By the time I got the courts gave my kids back, they did not recognize me as their mother. They were so angry. They didn't like me. They wanted to run away for something that I didn't do. I even got letters from people, you know, what kind of mother are you, and this and that, for things that I did not do that were made up. And I think that is the most horrible thing. I'm not a saint. I don't have a lot of patience. I make mistakes. I've not done everything right, and that's okay if people see those things. But take me for what I am, and don't make something up that I haven't done.
That was beautiful. That was good. I don't even have a follow-up question to that. Yeah. I'm not speechless, you know what I'm saying? And normally in my mind, I'm like, oh, I got the next one. Um, that was good. It makes me think about one of my shirts that I made, and it's similar to this one. And I know it's backwards on the live. It may be backwards on the live. Well, it looks back to me, but it's correct. And it says past, now, and future. I have one that says hero and heroes crossed out, victim at the bottom, and then villain circled, right? And I have another one on my site too that says the opposite, and it has hero circled. And you saying that you just want to be remembered as you are, that's what those two shirts, the hero and the villain shirt, um represent for me, right? Because someone's hero could be somebody else's villain, and someone's villain could be someone else's hero,
Yes,
right?
I had to learn that the hard way. It's true.
Yeah, yeah. And it just, one of the things that I came to realize is, like, if you're always the hero, you're imbalanced. And if you're always the villain, you're imbalanced. And if you're always the victim, you're imbalanced. And I think what life is, one of the things that life is trying to teach us is that you have to be comfortable. It's holy, right? I always do this. It's holy, meaning the yin and yang. Like, I have to be comfortable with my dark aspects and my light aspects. And like you said, I want you to remember me for both. If someone kicks in my door right now and tries to do something to my family, the villain is coming out. Now, my family's going to see me as a hero, right? But the guy that's kicking in the door, he's going to be like, that's the Joker. That's Megatron. So that was beautiful. Let me read one of these comments. Joy said, "You are everything that he wants to be. He wanted to put your light out." Steph said, "Two sides to the same coin." Steph, you late earlier. And one thing that I missed earlier, someone, and I don't know if they're still in here, someone asked me, do I ever do these shows and do topics such as abortion and things of that nature?
Oh.
On my show, you can come talk about whatever it is that you would like to. My show is not so much about me. I talk about myself here and there, but this is about what you want to talk about. If someone wants to come on my show and have the abortion conversation, if someone typically and generally wants to know my opinion, you are more than welcome to ask. I'll give you my opinion, regardless of where I stand. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. So it is what it is. But if you come on here and you want to have the conversation, we can have the conversation. Open debate. Top 5. Have you ever seen the end of my show before?
Yes, but I forgot.
Hopefully you don't have ready-made microwave answers for me. So
I tell myself when I watch your show, I'm like, okay, I got to be prepared, and then everything just left. I don't remember, so it'll be like the first time.
Oh, it's all good. I completely scrapped the notes. I keep my notes, so y'all saw me looking down earlier. That's my other phone, and I'm gonna get it put up here so that I can kind of look over and keep my notes. But I pretty much just scrapped the notes on this one. I just ask a couple questions and let you, be the star. But at the end of my show, every show, you have to tell me, my guest has to tell me, top 5, dead or alive, real or fictional, that they would sit down and have a one-on-one intimate conversation with. So who's your top 5?
You're right. I should have prepared.
You should have, but you didn't. So we get the artistic 5.
I'm not good at this.
Take your time. I got a little bit of time.
I'm sure.
Wait, before you go, what is your website?
PhoenixArtStudio.net. .net, not com. And Phoenix, Phoenix. A lot of times.
Phoenix Art Studio.
PhoenixArtStudio.net.
.net. Oh, why did they put the spaces in there? Okay, go ahead, give me your top 5 while I'm putting this in here.
That I'd like to sit down with. When I'm not thinking about it, I probably am like, I would really like to talk to that person. Okay, honest answer. I think, and I can't tell you everybody's name, but I would think that I'd like to sit down with. No, I can't tell you. Okay, so I love to read biographies. And I feel like whenever I'm reading someone's biography, I'm like getting to know them, and I'm absorbing their energy, and I'm learning them from the inside out. I feel like I'm close to them. I'm like, and when I see that person, I'm like, I feel like I know that person. I know Oprah. I read her book. Like, so I feel like when people reveal themselves and they make themselves vulnerable and write their whole story, and I read it, I feel like I am close to that person. So I can't say, I like to read a lot of them. So I feel like that's how I talk to people, whether they're dead or alive. And that's good enough for me. I don't feel like, but I do love sitting down with people who are into philosophy, science, and just talking to them and asking them questions. I love to do that. But I can't say there's any specific person, because if somebody has a biography, I feel like I've already sat down with them. So
okay, cool. I like that. I like that answer. That's a good one. You mentioned earlier, did you say you went to, or you were going to go to Tuskegee?
I was going to. I had a full scholarship to study there.
I asked that because I read a lot of self-help and enlightenment and Buddhism and Christianity and Gnostic and stuff like that. The one autobiography that I've read that has stuck with me is what is my man's name? Washington. Not Washington. Tuskegee. The creator of the Tuskegee Institute. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I can't think of the name.
Oh my God, this is terrible. That's my guy. Who created, hey Siri, who created this? Oh, wait a minute. I shouldn't do that. It might mess up the live. What is my man's name? Benjamin? This is terrible.
I know it is.
Booker.
I should know it.
Washington. Booker T. Washington. There we go.
Okay, there you go.
So, my wife to the rescue. Thank you. Thank God. See, this is why you should get married. I read his autobiography, and I also know a little bit about how he didn't get scratched out of history, but how they kind of put him in the Uncle Tom box. But when you read this man's autobiography, and we complain about racism today, and this man's biography begins with him talking about how, oh, I was a slave and I slept on the floor and it was cold because the window wasn't a window. It was just an opening in the wall, and it was super duper cold to go on and document all of the things that he was able to do to, when I say build, I mean with his hands and his students' hands, to build a university. You know, I was like, yo, he was in my top 5. And I hadn't put him in it when he was in my top, he wasn't in my top 5. And then the day before I got interviewed on my own show, I said, oh no, my man going in there, because he just is the epitome of, I don't care what's going on, I am going to push through. And he just pushed all the way through. And they kind of punished him for it, because, you know, if white people was cool with him back then, he'd be like, oh, okay, we work, you know, it works. But that's my guy. And when you were talking about that, it made me think about that. So
yes, I love that. People pushing through. That's my heart. And my dad did the same thing. He went to Tuskegee. He was raised in Alabama with his grandparents who were illiterate. But he wanted to go to college, and he went with $36 in his pocket. He tells me his story all the time. $36 in his pocket. He went to Tuskegee and said, I want an education. And they said, that's not enough. And he said, well, you're going to give it to me. And he did work study programs. He did, I think he worked for the newspaper and made them pay for all of his everything, including women and whatever else he wanted. And if one person said, we think you're misusing this, he'd go to another person and say, no, I need that money. I need you to take care of me. And they took care of him. No excuses. And he became a full bird colonel. So yeah, I love that attitude, and I do take that from my dad, where it's like, I'm going to do this no matter what kind of attitude.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. I remember your pops too. Like, I remember, you know how you have friends growing up and you remember them obviously, but you don't remember their parents. Like your father has a distinct look, you know what I'm saying? Like, we ring my doorbell right now, but I remember you.
Better call him Colonel.
Right. Real quick, we run out of time. Someone wants to know, this life I live in truth. Where do you get the inspiration for the name of your website?
Phoenix Art Studio. Honestly, in the beginning, it was the Phoenix, not Phoenix, Arizona, but the Phoenix, who was actually a representation of Jesus. So that's how I started. Like I said, we were in the church tough. That was what I wanted my business to be. But then I think over time it actually became a representation of myself, of the resurrection of yourself, the dying and resurrection of yourself in life, and the strength and resilience.
That's beautiful, because when I interpret the Bible, I look at it and I'm like, these things are supposed to be representations of aspects of us, right? So it's dope that you look at it that way. I always give my guests an opportunity to ask me a question and pick my brain for 5 seconds before we sign off. So if you want to ask me something, this is your moment to pick my brain.
Okay. I know everybody always asks, why did you decide to do this? So I know that answer. I do remember that. So my question is going to be about when we were kids. Like I said, it seemed like you were super focused. You knew where you were going. What was going in your head? What did you think your life would turn out to be?
So I was always kind of split on what I wanted my life to look like. My first love was basketball, so there was an aspect of me that really wanted to play professional basketball, right? And I won't necessarily tell him this, but I've always really admired my dad, regardless of the times where we have disagreed and, had our back and forths and stuff like that. But my father is like a 100% family man. So there was always a part of me who just was like, I'm good with, going to work and coming home and being with my family. So as a kid, that's how I projected myself into those two things into the future. Basketball didn't work out, so I'm the family, I'm the family man. And, my father is, how would I put this? So I'm very much like my father. I think I'm more emotionally, uh, outwardly emotionally intelligent and probably more philosophical, but his core values are my core values, and that's the path that I ended up taking. My father's the reason I'm a cop. He came home one day and was like, "Hey, son, it's time to be the police." So I was like, "All right, it's time to be the police." You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but I I've told this story before. I don't know if you've heard it. I remember being at one with the light. Have you heard me tell this story before?
No, I don't think so. But as you're telling it, I'll let you know if I remember.
So I'm telling you this because I remember being at one with the light for a very small amount of time. And when I say the light, I mean literally like there was just light and I was with it, a part of it, like a sparkle in it. And I just remember it saying, "Are you sure you want to go back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Like, yo, send me back. And then it just goes dark. And in the way I uh like handle that or deal with that is that in my interpretation of that is that I had an agreement with the light that I'll go back if you allow me to keep enough of this memory, right? And because I have that memory of being at one with the light, I've always been, and I've had it since I can remember. So since I was maybe 3, I've always had this deep knowing of where I come from outside of whatever this shit is. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, I'm just okay with life and the way it unfolds. Because in my mind, I'm going back to the light at some point.
Mm.
So that's my answer. I hope it answers your question.
Yes, that's awesome.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch on before we sign off?
I mean, there's always a million things to talk about. I mean, you're interviewing people who've, well, for myself, I've lived 40 years of life. That's a long time. That's a lot to cover. There's a lot of information in there. So, of course, you're going to get the highlights.
All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you for sitting down with me. I love you, Black woman. I think you are amazing. I think your art is amazing. You are my almost lifelong friend because I've known you for a really long time. And I would have never have fathomed that on August the 13th, 2022, we will be sitting down on Instagram doing a live interview. So I appreciate you for sitting down with me.
Yes, thank you. I was waiting.
Yeah, if and when ever back and you have a topic or you're doing something that you want to promote in terms of your art, just let me know ahead of time. I'll put you on the schedule and you have an open invitation to come back whenever you want.
Okay. Yay. Thank
All
you.
right. Now, y'all make sure y'all go to phoenixartstudio.net and buy something or get something custom made. If you're in the room now and you didn't see it before, this is for the YouTube audience. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to go watch it on YouTube. This is it. This is the artwork that I bought from Rhea. These are my 2 youngest daughters with a smooch. And this is my beautiful wife and her husband. When I saw this, right, real quick before we go, when I saw this picture, I said, that dude in that picture looks better than I do in real life. So I appreciate you. If you need anything, hit me up.
Okay, awesome. Thank
All
you.
right. Y'all be good. Shout out to everybody who is in the comments. Y'all have been great. Keisha, thanks for coming on. And yeah, y'all make sure y'all go check her out. Y'all be good. Peace.